maybe not the middle part, but I call him Dad. My daughter calls him Papa. He's here with us today, and he's going to join us. And without further ado, I'm going to admit him, and we're going to get started on this podcast. Hello. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for joining us, Dad. Really appreciate it. So today's podcast, we're going to talk about a couple different things. The first topic is discussing old timers in NFL. So when looking back in the NFL from today's date, maybe like 1980, 90, any really decade, any year that you can remember, what for quarterback, who's the greatest quarterback that comes to your mind when thinking about the NFL?
I would say Joe Montana.
Montana. So you watched Montana growing up?
Well, beginning probably like in the early 80s. I was like 17, 18 years old.
What do you remember most? What do you remember most about him?
Just good under the clutch, clutch situations, didn't panic. They moved the ball. He didn't throw a lot of deep passes, threw a lot of short passes, and just kept the ball moving. He always had a pretty good running back, ball control.
And not a lot of turnovers, right?
Right. He would just throw the ball away or, wouldn't take too many sacks, really smart quarterback.
I mean, looking at film of him, I can definitely see all that. Obviously, that was before my time, but comparing him to maybe like somebody now, maybe like a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, who do you think is better between those guys, Montana or one of those guys?
Who's better?
In your opinion, who do you think is better quarterback?
Right now?
Compare Montana to Rodgers or Brady, or just compare them to both of them, and who would you take? Like, would you take Montana or would you take one of those guys?
I'd probably take Montana, because he was always, right there, always in the clutch, like I said, didn't let his team down.
So he was actually, what was it, a two-time Super Bowl champ or three? One of those, right?
I would say at least three.
Yeah. So he is probably the definition of all-time great, I would say. Brady's right up there with the all-time greats. Obviously, Brady has got 6 rings himself, competing for a 7th ring from a whole different team in the Buccaneers, coming from the Patriots after being there for nearly, I think, 2 decades. He's trying to spread his wings and, win without Belichick, and might be a really good accomplishment to do something like that coming from a team that had so many wins and so many Super Bowls already. It's just going to really define Brady as, to me, anyways, as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that, definitely. It seemed like they always drafted or they would pick up free agent linemen that always blocked for him, pass blocking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every time I watch a game with him, he has a lot of time to throw the ball. And when you give him a lot of time to throw the ball, forget it. He just carves you up. Excellent quarterback.
I couldn't agree more with that statement that you just said. And adding on to that, somebody like Aaron Rodgers, I mean, the guy is great as well. There's no doubt about that. We're Bears fans, and we don't want to sit here and praise the guy because he carves us up all the time.
Yeah, no,
Anytime we play him, but
no,
I mean, he's equally as good. He's not on Brady level because he hadn't won 6 championships like Brady did, but the guy, last year they drafted a quarterback instead of taking defense, lineman, a receiver, somebody to help this guy out. They take another quarterback. And what does he do? He comes back this season, puts up the best season of his career, and possibly even wins MVP when it's all said and done. And now he's sitting here in the NFC championship game for the second year in a row, about to face one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game in Tom Brady. We cannot stress this matchup enough this weekend. It's going to be a really good matchup. I'm really excited to watch it.
more pressure, I would say, on Aaron Rodgers because he needs this to win a second Super Bowl. I think to be considered one of the greatest, and they lost their last 3 championship games, NFC championship games, and this is his first NFC championship game at home. And I think that the pressure is really on him because they're number 1 seed. They're picked to win this game to go to the Super Bowl. But like you said, you got Tom Brady in the way, you're in big trouble. And they lost 38-10 to them earlier this season also.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff has happened this season during the NFL season, but you do definitely gotta, give those stats when thinking about anything nowadays. That's gonna definitely be something that Rodgers isn't gonna try to think of. Obviously, to come out on top of this game, he's just gonna have to keep doing what he's been doing the last few weeks. But it's gonna be a good matchup. So when thinking about the all-time greats, moving on to the next position, quarterback, who comes to mind when you think about a running back?
Back in the day, oh wow.
It could be any decade, anybody
Yeah.
that comes to mind.
Walter Payton, of course, the Bears. Got the guy from Detroit. He retired early, only 9 years he played. What the heck was his name?
Emmitt Smith,
No, he was on Detroit Lions
that was Cowboys. Was it?
before your time.
Barry Sanders?
Yeah, Barry Sanders. Yeah. Oh my
Okay.
God. You remind me
Yeah.
of Walter so much.
I believe I had a Barry Sanders jersey when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think I got one for my birthday one year. And I had no idea who that was. But that would have been nice if I kept that. Yeah, Barry Sanders was a great player. I mean, any one of those guys that you named were great running backs.
Franco Harris,
Obviously, what's that?
Franco Harris, Pittsburgh.
Okay, I had never heard of that guy. You want to talk a little bit about him? What you remember the most about him?
Well, he was running back for all the 4 Super Bowls Pittsburgh won. They won 2 back-to-backs. I think it was 75, 76. And then 79 and 80, they won back-to-back again Super Bowls. And he was just a versatile running back. Caught balls out of the backfield, good receiver. He did everything, blocking, just all around great running back.
Now, when thinking about the running backs back then, to me in this generation that we're living in, it just feels like this is more of a quarterback generation because there are a lot of great running backs in the league, but for the most part, the teams that get to the top of the totem pole and make it to the Super Bowl and win it mainly just have like maybe like a mediocre running back and their quarterback is like an elite quarterback. I mean, let's talk about the teams that are in the AFC and the NFC Championship. You got the Bucks with Tom Brady. the running backs, like between Fournette and Ronald Jones, not elite, not elite status, great running backs, but not elite. You got the Packers, you got Aaron Rodgers, elite. You got Aaron Jones. He's probably close to elite as they come. He's pretty good. He had a good fantasy season this past season. A lot of doubters always go his way as well, but he comes out on the top. So if anything, I'd say he's closer to elite than any of these other guys, but still not completely elite in my books. You got the Bills. The Bills have Josh Allen. He had a breakout season, MVP candidate this season. Really great. He reached elite status this season, in my opinion. But their running back is Devin Singletary, Zach Moss. Guys don't really know who those guys are. People don't know who they are. Not elite. And you got the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, elite, won a Super Bowl already. Trying to repeat being the first player to do that since Tom Brady. And then you got Le'Veon Bell, who isn't going to play in the AFC Championship game, but he is not considered elite anymore. At one point, he was for Pittsburgh, but he's lost his step. Then they also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he's a rookie. So if anything, he might have some impact in the game today. However, he's not elite yet either. He's a rookie coming off of an injury. So overall, back then you kind of see like running backs were kind of like the main guys for their teams that kind of led them to the playoffs, led them to a Super Bowl, etc. And nowadays it's mainly the quarterbacks that do that. So that's kind of what we're seeing in this generation right now. So the final one, let's talk about a receiver, a wide receiver that you remember growing up, watching, somebody that always had an immediate impact on the game, maybe somebody that, maybe had 1,000+ yards in back-to-back seasons or whatnot. So does anybody come to mind for you?
Oh God, there were so many of them. There was like Lynn Swann for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was involved with the 4 championship games they won, Super Bowls. Jerry Rice was really number one. Yeah. Jerry Rice for the San Francisco 49ers.
You got Randy Moss.
Minnesota, and then wound up with, I think he played for New England a couple of years too.
He did.
And then
2 years or so.
Yep.
His son is also his son played for LSU last season. He's a tight end. I'm not exactly sure if anybody. I don't think anybody drafted him, but I could be wrong. If he did get drafted last year in the draft, it was really late rounds. But maybe look for him in the next couple years. The tight end market right now there's not a lot of good tight ends out there. There's maybe like 3 guys. It's Travis Kelce, George Kittle when he's healthy, and Darren Waller from the Raiders. And other than that, a bunch of these guys that are tight ends for fantasy purposes, anyways, and I guess for the real teams, if you could say that too, they just come in and it's like they're touchdown dependent. So you're looking for a touchdown at most, 30, 40 yards, if even that. Some guys that changed the game, like were guys like Gronkowski and, Shannon Sharp, the Kansas City Chiefs tight end back in the day. I forgot his name, Tony Gonzalez. There you go.
Yeah.
Those guys changed the game like for tight ends everywhere. But there hasn't been too many good tight ends out there right now. So is there any tight end that you wanted to mention that you remember?
Oh, heck. There was Mark Bavaro. He played for the New York Giants. He was really good. I remember him. I think they won a couple of Super Bowls with him on the team.
Okay.
And I can't really think of any other ones.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think of a lot of good tight ends, but nowadays when you do get your tight end that you can throw in there and carve up another defense, you want to utilize them as much as possible because a lot of them, the ones that are the most talented, they just really produce a lot. So, hoping that as a Bears fan, I'm hoping that Komet could be that in a couple years. We did draft him in the second round, and it seems like Nagy loves tight ends and he wants to get them involved in the offense. So hopefully he can, be one of the great tight ends out there for us.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that they're pretty good at what's his name? Komet. I think he can be pretty good.
right. Yep. Komet, to me, he has some talent. He has the athleticism that you look for in a tight end and a guy of that, you know, uh, the guy that's built that way. He has the body, athleticism. He can catch the ball, it looks like. So get him involved. You never know what can happen.
Right.
Um, so awesome. The next topic that we're going to talk about is the NFL rules changes. So over the last more, 30, 40, whatever, 50 years you want to say, there's been a ton of rules changes, but the significant ones that I found, there's like maybe 10 or 11 that I've looked up that I've noticed that were kind of like big ones. We're just going to talk a little bit about those. So the first one was in 1977, and that was when they banned the head slap rule. So I don't know if you know this, but Deacon Jones was the one that made that famous back in that time, one of the defensive linemen. So basically, they would just slap the helmet of the other guy to get past them around them to get to the quarterback. So that was banned in 1977. I guess it puts the offensive lineman at a disadvantage, so they had to ban that. The next one is 1980. So that was they banned striking or tackling from the head, neck, or the face mask. So that was the big face mask penalty that happens like all the time now, and that was banned in 1980. So do you remember watching football before that time when that specific rule was not banned?
What, the face mask?
Yeah,
Oh God, yeah. They, they did it all the time, and they did a lot of things. You
right.
know, helmet to helmet, and you know, smashing the quarterback after the ball was gone. Now, if you touch the quarterback 1 second after he lets the ball go, you're going to get roughing the passer. Back then, they just knocked them down and did whatever they can to hassle them, to make them throw the ball quicker or whatever. Uh, yeah, a lot of different, you know, all these rules to protect the quarterback, mostly, and some of them are just, like roughing the passer is ridiculous. I mean, how do you stop your momentum that quick? They expect these guys to stop their momentum on a dime, and it's hard to do.
Yeah,
Most of these linemen, they pull up all the time, even when they're tackling the quarterback, because they don't want to hurt them. And back in the day, it was who gets to the quarterback first, like the Bears when they won the Super Bowl. I was just watching a special they had on a Super Bowl team, 20 winners, and they would always be barking at each other, the linemen, like, I'm going to get him first. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to get him. I'm going to grab a leg. You get the arm, whatever. And they wanted to knock the quarterback out of the game, and that's just how it was back in the day. The quarterbacks were tough. They were tougher back in the day. They took a lot of hits and got right back up. And and kept on playing. Nowadays they're so protected. I'm not saying they're real fragile, but they don't have to be really tough because the rules, are they don't want nobody get. I mean, it's football. People are going to get hurt, but the rules are they don't want nobody getting hurt. And
Yeah,
that's just
I
the way
agree.
it is.
Mhm. Well, yeah, the quarterback is what makes the whole team. I mean, you see, like in this day and age right now, we're talking about all the great quarterbacks that are out there and how they've been leading their teams to Super Bowl wins and wins and playoff appearances. You can't have a great team without a great quarterback. I mean,
Right.
look at the situation that we've been in as Bears fans for the last 20 years. We have not found a franchise quarterback. And you got teams like the Packers who get two. They get Favre followed by Rodgers. You get Brady who was in New England for like almost 20 years. I mean, now Mahomes is on the Chiefs. He's going to be their franchise quarterback. They signed him for a real long deal. It's like that's what you need now. You need a franchise quarterback. You need the guy to stay healthy. So all these rules that are out there, they kind of do, favor quarterbacks. I mean, they want these guys to still play the game, and sometimes the game's not very watchable without these guys out there on the field. I mean, let's be honest. You have a guy that is like a Patrick Mahomes versus a Tom Brady. Would you take that, or would you take like, you know, Mitchell Trubisky versus like Sam Darnold? I mean, you just gotta. That's just how it is now with the whole
Yeah.
rules and everything. They have to favor quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a couple different like rules that you know they came up with that actually are pretty good for the NFL. For instance, in 1986, they introduced instant replay. Instant replay is good to have because the refs aren't perfect. They're not going to get the call right every time. So if they get the chance to review the play, they're going to get it right. So that's something good that happened. Adding on to that, last season in 2019, they actually did introduce the coach's challenge for offensive pass interference. Now, I don't believe that that was a very good thing to do. It really slowed the game down a lot last year, and a lot of the times they wouldn't even reverse the call anyway. So it really didn't make any sense why they put this rule in there. Do you agree with that, or how do you feel about that rule that they had added last
Yeah.
year
Last year's rule.
for the offensive pass interference? They had added the rule where the coach could challenge it.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of times they don't call it, and I think it's a good rule. Had the coach challenge it, you know. Um, I didn't like instant replay in the beginning because it slowed the game down. I thought it was taking
Yeah,
forever.
yeah,
Uh, you just gotta let these refs do their job. But then as I watched over the years, I said, okay, we got plays that went in our favor, and then there's plays that don't go in our favor. So I think everything evens out anyway, whether you have instant replay or you don't have instant replay, because
yeah.
they calls and miss calls,
Mhm.
and then now you're going to get calls for you or calls against you. So everything just evens out. And I think it extends the game time wise more with instant replay. Um,
Mhm.
like I said, there's times I like it and there's times I don't like it.
Yeah,
I have a problem with it without it, and I really have no problem with it. I have either way. It's the same to me because, like I said, everything evens itself out.
yeah. I think there's pros and cons to everything. I think instant replay was great because, like I said, sometimes the call is wrong in the field and they have a chance to overturn it or to look at it and get the call right. Um, I, however, like I do like the offensive, you know, challenge for offensive pass interference. I like that, but they just did not go about it right because it just seemed like every time that they would review it, they would never overturn the call. So it just seemed like that was like a waste of like a challenge for coaches. So if they ever do like have it back, hopefully they get it right the next time around so they can actually keep it around for years to come. The next one that I wanted to talk about was in 1994. So they introduced the 2-point conversion in 1994. So that's a pretty big one. I mean, you have teams that, are down 8 points in the later half of the game. They need the 8 points to come back. Back before 94, they did not have the 2-point conversion. So the only option they had was to go for the extra point, and then they would have to get the ball back again. So, do you remember a time, maybe like a game you watched or any significant moment before that rule was introduced with the 2-point conversion where, like, I don't know, a game was going down to the wire and obviously the 2-point conversion wasn't there. So the team had to maybe like, try to do an onside kick after they scored. I mean, is there anything that you remember back before the 2-point conversion was introduced?
Well, like you said, without that rule, they would have to get a touchdown, and then they would have to automatically do a 2-point not 2-point conversion, onside kick, depending on how much time is left in the game, or
Mhm.
you got 3-4 minutes left. You rely on your defense. Depends on how good your defense is. You got
Yeah.
a real good defense, you get your touchdown, you're down by a point, and you take your chances and to stop them so you can get the ball back and try to go down enough to kick a field goal. But
Mhm.
if your defenses weren't that good, then you had the onside kick, and that was it. And that made the game pretty exciting. I thought the onside kick. You know,
Mhm.
um, the 2-point conversion now, I don't mind it. You know, it does make it more interesting where teams can come back. You know, and tie the game, like you said. It depends. A lot of times, if you miss the extra point, then you got that 2-point conversion to make up that point you missed, or to go ahead by 4 instead of head by 3. Late in the game to force the other team to come back and do a touchdown. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of strategy involved with that 2-point conversion. I kind of like that too. You
Yeah,
know.
I agree. Strategy definitely does play a big role on what to do if you are down by two, if you want to go for it, if you want to go for the extra point instead of going for two. Like, there's a ton of strategy that's involved with that introduction of the 2-point conversion. So definitely a role that I found that I really think that is a good thing that they introduced. So the next one, so there's two more that I wanted to talk about really, briefly. The next one was from 1999, and that's the two coaches challenge that was introduced. And then the other one was a 2005, which was a horse collar tackle. So honestly, like the horse collar tackle to me is pretty significant because I mean, there's a lot of times where there's a guy running as fast as he possibly can run, going down the sideline. The only way that you can get him down is to basically grab his shoulder pad area and tackle him down with the horse collar. So to me, that's a big penalty that they added then in 2005. And I'm guessing it's because maybe there was injuries happening with those tackles before where guys would get hurt, um, if they were tackled that way. That's really the only thing I can think of why they would add something like that. Because to me, you know, I really haven't seen a whole lot of injuries happening with horse collar tackles. But do you have anything to add to that with horse collar tackles?
No, like you said, it's the reason they do a lot of these rule changes is to protect the players. And I really don't remember in the past either of a lot of players getting hurt from horse collar tackles. I did it myself when I was a sophomore in high school, and I played, or a freshman in high school. I played freshman football, and I grabbed a guy by the shoulder pad, and he was a little guy, and he was fast. And the only way you can get him down was if you broke through the offensive lineman. I was defensive end. Just grab him, grab whatever you can grab, and all of a sudden I got him by the shoulder pad and did a horse collar and just dragged him right down, and he was done, But it was the only way to get him because he was so quick going around the end all the time. But
yeah.
it's I think it's a good rule. It's because you could hurt a player pretty bad dragging him down like that, because when you drag him down by that horse collar, you basically ramming his shoulder into the ground or his head into the ground awkwardly, and I think it was a good rules change.
Yeah, for the most part, a lot of those aren't that bad that they added. I mean, most of them are to protect the players. It's just that sometimes it just could become overwhelming. Like as a football player, to just remember like not to do this, not to do that, not to do this. That's one of the reasons why. Like, I mean, I love watching football, but it is aside the fact that I did not want to get hurt, it's another reason why I didn't really want to get into football that much playing wise, because there's just too much to remember. Like you're remembering, plays and all this other strategic like information that you need to keep deep down in your memory. But then on top of that, you also need to have a memory of all these rules that you can't do this, you can't do that. And for me, it's like playing baseball my whole life. I just had to remember the basic rules. Like it seemed like every like baseball game was the same with the same rules. But with football, so much has changed over the years. And I mean, overall, they're protecting the players, but they are changing a whole lot. And I know that they probably end up losing a lot of like fans and whatnot, especially the old timers that maybe just don't want to, watch the game anymore because of that reason alone. Um, but like you said before, there's pros and cons to everything. So you really can't decide sometimes. You gotta just play it, go along with it. So um, the next topic that I wanted to talk about today was the there was a couple articles that came out recently on a couple different like NFL analysts for like fantasy football as well as just like NFL Network and also like ESPN radio host. For instance, Mike Greeny, I believe, wrote an article about this, and it's just the um, top 10 quarterbacks of all time to never win a Super Bowl. So, which one comes to mind when thinking of like a great quarterback that you remember that has never won one?
I would say Dan Marino.
Dan
He had
Marino was definitely he was
a
definitely
good
on top
team.
of he was on top of everybody's list. So
Yep.
yeah,
And
he
then
was.
there was Dan
Mhm.
Fouts for San Diego Chargers, another great quarterback. You look up his
Okay.
stats, he's way up there in touchdowns and yards passed. He would, they would score 38, 45 points a game and
Mhm.
lose because they never had good defenses.
I
They had
believe.
halfway decent defenses. These guys would have won Super Bowls left and
Mhm.
right, And I believe Dan Marino, too, didn't have really good defenses on his team. They were all offensive minded coaches. Eric
Yeah.
Coryell was the name of the coach. I forgot his first name. It might have been Dan Coryell for San Diego Chargers, and he was just all about the pass. Never ran the ball and just pass it downfield, pass it everywhere. Just move the chains and keep on. Not even move the chains, just air it out, and that's why they scored so many points.
Hmm.
But those are two that I can remember never winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I believe a lot of those analysts had both of those guys on their list. So another guy that comes to mind is Jim Kelly,
Oh
um,
yeah, right.
Buffalo Bills
Yep.
quarterback from the
Yeah,
90s. Took
they
the
had good
Bills to four.
defenses. I think
Yeah.
they were just snake bitten.
Mm,
There was a lot of bad luck with those four Super Bowl teams because they always had good defenses too. Those Bills
mm,
teams, but they always somehow found a way to lose the game. It was sad.
yeah.
I wanted the guy to win at least one Super Bowl.
Right. It's unfortunate to go to four Super Bowls in general, but four Super Bowls in a row and not at least win one of them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's got to be the most heartbreaking thing that you can ever experience,
yeah.
like as a player.
That those are some of the greatest teams ever too. Those Bills
Yeah.
teams, and one
Oh
of the
yeah.
greatest backs.
Yeah. No doubt that they are one of the top, all-time teams, all-time great teams out there, for sure. Another guy that comes to mind is Michael Vick. He is probably, I mean, he's not like maybe a top 10 guy, but he's definitely up there, maybe top 15 for sure. You can make an argument that he could maybe be top 10. Um, I believe he made it to the Super Bowl one time with Andy Reid, but did not win. But I mean, he kind of, to me,
Yeah, I
growing
think that was
up,
with Philadelphia, right?
right? Yeah, to me, growing up, Michael Vick changed the quarterback game
Oh, sure.
because there wasn't really a time before that where quarterbacks ran a lot. And he was one of the first ones that started rushing the ball and scoring touchdowns from using his legs. But also, like at the same time, he would, you know, get defenses confused because they didn't know whether he was going to throw it or run. And
Yeah,
that's kind of like how the game is right now. I mean, you have Josh Allen out there. He rushed for like over 600 yards. You got Lamar Jackson from the Ravens, rushed for like back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, even like guys like Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes, even they take off when they know that there's nothing there, there's no guys open, and they have a ton of field open. They'll just take off. So to me, Michael Vick definitely changed the quarterback landscape, and I would put him in the top 10 easily.
oh
Um,
yeah, he was exciting football player to watch.
and then you got guys like I know I used to use Vick and Madden all the time, and that was like the cheat code to just play with Vick because how you just hike the ball in shotgun and just take off running. It was great. Another guy would be Warren Moon.
Yeah, yep, very good
Mhm.
quarterback. Yep, I remember.
Now,
I remember a game. It was Houston. I forget, Buffalo. I think it was Houston Buffalo game,
mhm,
and they just kept going back and forth. The two quarterbacks, and I think Houston was down, or maybe it was Buffalo was down a lot of points, and they came back, and this was a playoff game, down 30 points or 25 or something,
yeah.
and came back to win the game. And Warren
Wow.
Moon definitely was a really good quarterback.
Yeah, and if you can make an argument that he did change the landscape for all Black African American quarterbacks out there as well, because um, he went through a pretty rough time. If you're not aware of this story, so before he made it to NFL, he played in another league. I think it was the Canadian League, and it was because the NFL did not want to have a black quarterback in the National Football League, and he tore it up inside of the Canadian Football League and for like more than a few years, and then he finally made his way into the NFL afterwards. But I mean, he could have had so many more years in the NFL if it wasn't for all the segregation and racism going on in the world back then. and he could have possibly even won a Super Bowl if he was indeed, allowed to play in the NFL at an earlier time in his career. Um, he could be considered one of the top five quarterbacks out there to, never win a Super Bowl. Who knows though? He could have even, not even been on this list, and he might have even gotten one himself. But obviously, we'll never know now. But definitely, one of the best ones out there that has never won one on that
Yeah,
list.
yeah,
And the last one that I wanted to talk about was, you know, one of the guys that had a pretty long career. I think it was 17 or 18 seasons in the NFL, and mainly played for the San Diego Chargers most of his career. Backed up by, I believe he backed up Drew Brees for some time, and he just retired this year. And that's Philip Rivers.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
Philip
Yep.
Rivers had never won a Super Bowl. Obviously, hadn't really even made it too far in the playoffs. I think he might only have a couple playoff wins to his, belt. But I mean, there's no denying talent, and Philip Rivers definitely did have
Yeah,
talent.
he's top of the line.
Um,
Yep.
he was, he is a, very outspoken person to say the least. I mean, he used to get on guys' backs, when they drop balls, just he just had that mentality like that he wanted to win the game and he would do anything that it took to win. And you like to see that in players. I mean, if you see that in a player on your own team, that's definitely something that you want to watch. It's interesting and it's cool to watch that. Um, also, so that pretty much concludes that section of the all-time quarterbacks to never win a Super Bowl. Pretty great topic. Like I said, some of these guys, they have actual lists out there that they post on like NFL.com, talk about their top 10 guys. It's pretty interesting to see because you can see the generations, I mean, for instance, you yourself growing up in the 70s, 80s, you can maybe relate to more of these old time quarterbacks because they were there. But as time goes on and the generation gets younger, like we're gonna remember the guys like Brady and Breeze, and we're gonna remember we'll remember Phil Rivers. He played in our time, and I mean, who knows? We could be talking about some other guys on this list in the years to come if they don't end up getting to the top of the totem pole.
Yeah.
So yeah, the last topic that I just wanted to discuss was the championship game. So, I mean, let's start with the Chiefs and the Bills. So, breaking down this game, first, tell me who you think is going to win this game.
I would think Kansas City because they won't. They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and they got all the tools: quarterback, running back, and defense. And Mahomes is your X factor, of course. And hopefully he's okay because he had a concussion
Yeah.
last week. He was under concussion protocol, and it didn't really look that bad of him hitting his head on the ground that bad to me. But
Mhm.
when he got up and he was wobbly and really didn't know where he was, but then when you seen him run to the locker room and sprint there like that, you knew he was feeling a lot better and looking okay. But yeah, I think Josh Allen this is only his second year, third year,
Third year. Yep.
third year. Well, Mahomes is it's only his third or fourth year too. So this could be a breakout for Josh Allen. But
Mhm.
I think to, to he's got to definitely win this game to prove himself as being a top quarterback.
Yep.
But I just Kansas City's at home, and
Mhm.
you just can't go against Mahomes. That's why I like them. I like Kansas City.
Yeah. this honestly, these matchups were really tough for me to kind of decide who I was going to go with because there's so many good teams. Like every single team that's playing still is definitely worth winning a Super Bowl. Um, and for me, I would pick the Chiefs. I'm not going to go against Patrick Mahomes. They've been saying that he's been practicing all week long and that his concussion is no longer an issue. Um, he's he's going to be healthy coming into the game, and if he is, he's gonna carve up the Bills. Let's be honest. He has Tyreek Hill, he has Travis Kelsey, he has weapons around him. Not to mention, he also is getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. So I'm thinking that the Chiefs are gonna try to establish the run early on, and once they get um, the ball rolling with that, it's gonna open up play action, and he's gonna go down the field more to Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, and they're gonna move the ball. Now, the only chance that the Bills have in winning this game is if Josh Allen can come through for them because he's going to have to keep up with Mahomes. Um, I think that this game could definitely turn into a shootout. I mean, it has the making for something like that along the lines because, Allen has been slinging the ball all year long, and he also has that rushing ability as well. So the Chiefs are going to need to get to him in order for them to win this game. And he's going to have to, avoid that, getting sacked and all that, and turnovers to win the game as well. Turnovers are going to have a big impact on the game as well. They always do. But I think I see the Chiefs coming out on top for this one as well. Um, Moving on to the other games. So you got the Bucks and the Packers. Who do you have in this game?
Well, I got to go with Tampa because they beat the Packers 38-10 earlier in the season. And Tom Brady is Tom Brady. You know, he
Mhm.
really up for these big games. He's had some monster games. And I think the pressure is on Aaron Rodgers because this is third year in a row that they lost his last three NFC Championship games. He lost, and to consider himself, elite quarterback, up with all his other quarterbacks, he's needs to win the second Super Bowl. I think to be considered one of the best, and he's at home. He's number one seed. So all the pressure is on the Green Bay Packers. And I just don't think they're gonna be able to stand up to all that pressure. And I think the Bucks are gonna win this game. And I think it's gonna be a close game. You know,
Mhm.
two really good quarterbacks. Um, might come down to the wide receivers. They got the real good wide receiver in Green Bay, Adams, and um, they got some good wide receivers in Tampa too. So,
Mhm.
but I think Bucks, are going to pull this one out.
Yeah, and I really hate to say that I agree with you again on this one, but I'm definitely taking the Bucks in this one as well. And the reason why I'm taking the Bucks over the Packers is because of the weather. So it's supposed to snow in Green Bay, which in turn is probably going to turn the game into like more of a rushing attack. And the Bucks, I believe, are one of the top rushing defenses in the league. So I don't really see the Packers being able to establish the run on the Bucks. I don't think that they're gonna really be able to do that with the Bucks front line. And on the other side, the Packers, their defense has been playing better lately, and the whole team overall has been playing better. But during the season, their rush defense was like one of the worst in the NFL. And if the Bucks can come out and run the ball on them and maintain possession of the ball and keep the ball in Tom Brady's hands instead of giving it to Rodgers, just milk the clock, then there's no doubt in my mind that the Bucks are going to win this game. It's going to probably come down to a turnover as well. So I really like the Bucks' chances of getting a turnover compared to the Packers because I believe that the Bucks defense is just a lot better. And there wasn't really any way to know that last season with the Bucks because you had Jameis Winston as the starter who threw 30 interceptions. So when your quarterback throws that many picks and he turns the ball over that much, I mean, your defense is on the field like all the time. And this season, that turned around like instantly with Brady as under center because he only threw, I believe, maybe like 5 or 6 picks. So 5 to 30 is definitely a big
Yeah,
difference. But yeah, I do
sure.
have the Bucks coming out in this one as well. So real quick, so we have the Chiefs and the Bucks in the Super Bowl. Now, this is definitely something that a lot of people want to see. You have the GOAT in Tom Brady to versus the future GOAT that's taken over for you in Patrick Mahomes, and this would be one of the best things to watch. Regardless of which teams win today and they make it to the Super Bowl, I believe that this Super Bowl is going to be watchable. But how would you like to see Tom Brady versus Mahomes in the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah, like you said, the old guard against the new guard. It would be
Yep.
very interesting Super Bowl. I think it would be a very good Super Bowl. A lot of side stories to it, and I would be all the way for Kansas City to go make it 2 in a row. I would like the new blood to continue.
Yeah, see, I'm torn between who I would like to win if it was the Bucks versus the Chiefs. As of now, I really don't have an answer for that because I've spent the last 10 years disliking Tom Brady just because he's good and he wins too much.
Me
But
too.
now,
Yep.
but now that he's on a different team and he's on the Bucks, I would like to see him win a Super Bowl with them. So I'm really torn between who I would like to win if I saw that matchup.
Yeah,
We'll see
that
what
would be.
happens though.
If that happened, that would be. I wouldn't. That wouldn't bother me at all to see that happen. You know,
Mhm.
that just shows how good of a quarterback he is by winning a Super Bowl with a team that first year you're with them and you're 42 years old. Definitely that he's got to be considered the greatest quarterback of all time, and especially winning a Super Bowl with a different team with the first year you're with them. You know, that
Right,
would be that would be something else.
right. And Tampa Bay's at home. If they would be at home for the Super Bowl as well, it just has all the making
Oh, it's played
of
in Tampa. It's
greatness.
going to be played
It's
in
in
Tampa, huh?
it's in
Tampa
Tampa. Yep,
Stadium. Oh
yep.
wow,
Hmm.
that would be a first, I think, wouldn't it?
That would
For
be the first time that the home
their
team
home
ever
stadium.
won. Yep,
Yeah,
it would.
that's
So
pretty wild. That would be
very,
wild. Yeah.
very wild. Just to add another thing to the list of his greatness, Tom Brady. So
Oh sure, sure. Legacy. Yep.
great. So well, that concludes it for today. I really want to thank you for joining me, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on. And I hope that we can definitely do this again sometime soon.
Sounds good. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.
All right, you too. We'll talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Bye.
So that does it for today's episode of the SSFFL podcast. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And until next time, have a great afternoon. Enjoy the games.